complex narrative filled with torment, conflict, and sexual discovery. The life of Frida Kahlo was as colourful as the clothes she wore. Ahead of Frida Kahlo making herself up the summer show at London's V&A Museum, I thought this was the perfect time to unravel some of the mystery that surrounds one of the art world's most beloved characters. Yo soy Doug, estás mirando Fifth Wall TV. Is this a bit much? Before we jump into this, if there's one thing we can guarantee about Frida Kahlo is that if she was around today, she'd definitely have an Instagram account. Because, well, let's face it, she loved a selfie. Well, we're on the topic of Instagram. Don't forget, you can follow us here at Fifth Wall TV to make sure you catch up on everything that's going on in the world of art. That might be my most tenuous link yet. As with all icons of the art world, Frida's personal life and her art career were two roots of the same tree, interwoven and synonymous with each other. For the purpose of this video, I'm really just going to be examining the key stages within her personal life and show how that reflected within the art that she was making. There are already countless other videos, documentaries, and articles on Frida's life, so really I'm just going to be cherry picking the best bits from them to save you guys having to sit through a bunch of over-the-top YouTubers. Yeah, this feels kind of weird. Legend has it one night in 1898, Guillermo Callo, an immigrant of German-Hungarian descent living in Mexico City, asked for the hand in marriage of his co-worker Matilde Calderón in what would have been a beautiful moment. If it didn't so happen to be the exact same night that Guillermo's actual wife died giving birth to his daughter. The two were married, and once they were married, the two daughters were sent off to a convent, and actually, we don't really hear about them. In what sounds like an extract from a Mexican soap opera, this story of how Frida Kahlo's parents met kind of sets the tone for the whole of Frida's life, one filled with drama and highly questionable views of fidelity. On the 6th of July 1907, Matilde gave birth to Magdalena, Carmen, Frida Kahlo y Calderón in Coyoacán, Mexico City. I think it's safe to say Frida was a bit of a daddy's girl. Not only did she take after his thirst for knowledge and academics, she also purposefully tried to look like him too. This rebellious quest for self-discovery would be prominent at every stage in her life. At only 6 years old, Frida contracted polio, leaving one of her legs thin and stunted with growth. She wore skirts with extra socks and custom-heeled shoes to try and hide the abnormality. From this young age, Frida was already learning how to mask her insecurities. Nothing affected her though quite as much as a tram accident when she was 18 years old. The encounter resulted in Frida impaled through the pelvis and left for dead. From here, life would never be the same for her. Bedbound and in full body cast, her academic pursuit of becoming a doctor was now a faded memory. To alleviate her boredom, her mum installed a mirror above her bed so she'd have something to look at. She also had a custom-made easel installed from which she learned to paint from bed. Drawing influence from Mexican folk art with a touch of contemporary surrealism, Frida began to explore the subject she thought she knew the best: herself. Frida grew up during the period of the Mexican Revolution, a civil war which saw the overthrowing of President Diaz. Following this, Mexico City entered a renaissance during the 20s and 30s, which saw a rediscovery of traditional Mexican heritage, which was mixed with the cafe culture of Western Europe. For Frida and her friends, this was very much the roaring 20s. In 1929, Frida married Diego Rivera, an artist with more than a couple of years on her. This relationship would take many different shapes and forms, but it would last for the remainder of her life. Rivera was a dominant force within the relationship. He was a leading figure within the Mexican muralist scene and was gaining notoriety the world over. For most of her living career, Frida spoke from his shadow. The relationship would play a huge part in Frida's artistic development, conceptually as well as technically. The painting Frida and Diego Rivera from 1931 portrayed Frida taking on the traditional role of the wife. Shown in San Francisco that year, this was one of the first works that she exhibited to the public, and shows Frida in a vastly different light from the one that she's known for. Complications with the pregnancy the following year took her subject matter in the unflinchingly personal and revealing direction that would come to define her as an artist. For this openness, she's often reveled as a feminist icon, something I'm going to discuss a little bit later on. Frida's often cited as a political activist. At various periods in her life, she was a card-carrying member of the Mexican Communist Party, and evidence of this can be seen in various pieces of her work. She attended rallies and even gave Leon Trotsky a place to stay when he was living in exile. In what would definitely give the writers of EastEnders a run for their money, during this period, she had an affair with Leon Trotsky just before he was assassinated. I mean, talk about your drama. It's also widely believed that her choice of traditional Mexican clothing was a symbolic allegiance to national values, rejecting foreign influence. This was quite a popular trend within that social circle at the time. It's also believed that a great deal of this political influence came from Diego. Throughout their time together, both Diego and Frieda pursued passive infidelity. Frieda would explore her own sexuality whilst Diego womanized. Despite the infidelity, when they did divorce in 1939, it would only be 1 year until they remarried again. During the period of separation, Frieda rejected the colourful clothes of her nation, cut her hair, and turned herself into the antithesis of Diego's desire. Even though they were remarried, the infidelity continued. Frieda's portrayal of Diego took many forms. They ranged from two parts of a singular celestial entity to a dark crutch to, well, I'm actually not quite sure what this one is. Equally, Frieda's view of herself often changed shape, from heartbroken and childless to golden girl of communism to, well, I'm actually not quite sure what this one is either. The exploration of feminine identity through painting was uncharted territory at the time, and for this, she rightly deserves her place within feminist history. Although, if I'm honest, the popular portrayal of a strong, fiercely independent woman is problematic and actually probably has more to do with her bold facial hair than it does of her actions of female empowerment, as so much of her art, her politics, her lifestyle was dictated by Diego. This is purely a personal opinion, and if you want to discuss this further, hit me up in the comments and I'll happily engage with you. In 1953, Frieda contracted gangrene in her leg, which would result in amputation, seemingly the last straw in her never-ending fight against illness. Her health rapidly deteriorated, and the following year, she died in the blue house that she had spent so much of her life in, a building equal amounts of wonder as it was confinement. How exactly she died is still the stuff of legend. Many believe she overdosed on the morphine which she had become increasingly dependent on as her health diminished. Diego refused an autopsy and had her cremated shortly after she passed. Her ashes remain on display in the family home. Whatever way you look at it, Frieda's life was the stuff of legend. She moved from the beating heart of Mexico's social scene into unbearable periods of isolation and solitary confinement. During the short life that she lived, she underwent over 30 operations and was locked in a seemingly endless battle for recovery. I've heard Frieda's image be described as water. It will take the shape of whatever vessel you offer it. And I think this sums her up quite perfectly. Whether it was her fashion, her politics, or of course her artwork, there was always two Friedas. The one that she was, and the one that we desire her to be. Featuring some of Frieda's most beloved clothing, her corsets, and even her artificial leg, Frida Kahlo, Making Herself Up, will be on display at London's V&A Museum until November 2018. If you are planning a trip, make sure you book your tickets well in advance because they are selling out already. In the meantime, I hope you enjoyed watching this video as much as I enjoyed putting it together. If you'd like to see me explore more icons within the art world, then let me know in the comments and maybe we could make this more of a regular thing. Till next time, hasta luego amigos. My name's Doug. This is FWTV. A mi tierra mexicana, yo le canto a tus volcanes, a tus praderas.